Hello, fellow Robotech fans. I really enjoy reading everybody's comments and actually learn a lot from all of your comments. Today, I'd like to share some of the really good comments and answer any questions. So let's get into it.
Episode 20 Robotech Palladium RPG Overview.
On the first Robotech video, I discussed how I went to San Diego Comic-Con and I picked up my copy of Robotech RPG where Carl Masick was signing them. He also showed artwork of the Sentinel series and he said that was coming out soon. Unfortunately, the series never came out.
At Gene Elder, R27 wrote, I remember when I first heard there was a Robotech role-playing game. I called around until I found it, and actually had to take the bus to go buy it. It was the first time I had ever used the bus, and reading it on the ride was oddly satisfying in a way I will never experience again.
At David Radich, 9342 wrote, OG player here. Played in 85, had high school friends, worked at a comic book shop owned by Kevin Simbeta, and got in on the ground floor test playing the first Robotech RPG.
At Simon Ashworth Wood wrote, a Robotech RPG. I find it hard to believe that adventurers would get into those giant robots and succeed in getting them into a dungeon. Then again, I am sure that power gamers would like to do that.
Gene Elder, I totally understand. The only shop I knew about that carried Robotech was in our downtown area, which required me to take a light rail train, so every time I needed a new Robotech book, it was certainly an adventure. That's so cool, David Radich, to have been a test player. Let me know if there's any cool things that happened during that testing. Everyone, let me know in the comments how you experienced Robotech RPG for the first time.
At RC Gunner 7086 wrote, sure, send them along. I used to play ages ago, so it would be fun to see what you make of this game's combat system. I remember it was pretty fun, but I was never quite sure if I was playing it correctly. The more recent edition of the game is a bit better in that respect, but still something of a mess.
At Exequelfrey, 1352 wrote, my first RPG experience was with Robotech 2, The Sentinels, around year 99-2000s, for months or years. We didn't get how the non-physical skills worked. Have in mind that my gaming group live in Argentina, so we had the extra hindrance of the language.
At Old School Online, 8871 wrote, Southern Cross was always my favorite book of the series. Loved this game as a kid. While the rule set was a bit unbalanced, the source material was awesome in the Palladium books, and I remember spending hours during my summers reading through them. Thanks for the memories.
Many people commented on how the rules were hard to follow. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I thought it was just my group that had problems understanding the rules. That's awesome how you played the game and worked through the rules in Argentina. Let me know if the books were hard to find or if they were widely available. Also, are there any cool stories from a Robotech player in Argentina?
Episode 26 Robotech Southern Cross and Return of the Masters.
In this episode, I talked about the Southern Cross setting in the Return of the Masters Adventure Scenario book. The Return of the Masters Adventure book takes place after the Invid Invasion. In this book, the Invid return to Earth. The book provides different adventure scenarios. The main scenario revolves around a super Robotech factory. This factory, both the Invid and Earth forces want it, so the battle is on.
At Toberfrank wrote, back in the day, the idea of MOS sets in Masters was exciting. I love how Palladium was able to redo this book with the second edition and provide a whole lot of detail on both the Southern Cross and the Masters, plus the new quality artwork.
At User wrote, I have both versions of The Return of the Masters, the original and the revised with the additional adventures and the additional REF mecha. I haven't run any of the adventures as written, but did combine it with the adventure from Strike Force for a Sentinels group sent to Earth. That ended up in the area.
I didn't know there was a second revision, since I only have the first one. So what am I missing? Should I purchase it? Is it worth the price?
Episode 27 Robotech Palladium Invid Invasion.
The Invid Invasion setting is my favorite setting. It takes place in a war-torn Earth, which is great for role-playing games. Also, the Alpha and Cyclone are classics.
At Douglas Rude 2650 wrote, I totally agree. My players always preferred to play during the Invid Invasion. They liked the idea that they did not have to be beholden to a government or military commanders, and they loved scavenging for weapons, ammo, and mecha. We had some fantastic adventures, some of which even involved space combat with the Invid, which is cool, because there are some cool spacecraft as well as the normal mecha.
At Exequielfree, 1352 wrote, giving shoulder mini-missile launchers to the Battler Cyclone, Scott and Rand variant, was a concession made by Palladium, as those variants never fired missile from the front, motorcycle mode, or from the shoulders armor mode during the show. The only missile they had were the forearms launcher that Scott had. Only the Sabre variant used by Lancer had the mini-missile launchers on the shoulder/front.
At Scaramine wrote, so this was where the mini-missiles first appeared, before becoming the main heavy weapon in Rifts. The Sabre mech reminds me of my favorite heavy cyborg from Triax, the gold model which also had twin retractable forearm blades.
Mini-missiles are such a great addition to the setting. It allows for smaller mecha to hang with the big boys. I actually didn't know that Lancer's Cyclone was the only one to use the shoulder missiles, but it was still a great addition.
Episode 33 Robotech 2 Sentinels.
This was a really cool book, and I bought it the second it came out. After I read it, I kind of thought it had elements of Star Trek, but for the Robotech world.
At Exequielfree, 1352 wrote, finally, the book that introduced me and my group to RPG, sort of. Luckily for us, this was a core rulebook and have most of the system described on it. As you mentioned, the Sentinels races of the Bearmen and Amazons felt underwhelmed against all the MD weapons going around. The book really made an emphasis on using mecha combat.
At Toberfrank wrote, I can completely relate to the buying all Robotech I saw when the animated series has completed its run. The RPG was the thing that most kept the property alive for me. I had no idea about the timing of the books. My memory felt like they all came out in order crazy. I agree that the Mac 3 was rather uninspired looking.
Sentinels was such a cool setting. It was my recollection that this book came out before the Invid Invasion because I remember being excited to see the stats for the Alpha and Cyclone.
Episode 37 Lancers Rockers Adventure Review.
This adventure book I feel is pretty obscure. Today, and even back then, I don't remember a lot of people talking about it. The book takes place after the anime series ends, so you get to fight alongside Lunk and Lancer. How cool is that?
At Naka USA wrote, I didn't even know this I've existed. Then again, I normally didn't buy adventure books. Had I known there was new stuff, I probably would have. Then again, I think I set Robotech and AD and D down around then as I moved and had to make new friends. Thanks for the review. Maybe Heroes or Villains books, or Rifts. Rifts was my all-time favourite, and I even had someone bring in a Macross-era Veritech into the Rifts world. It was a blast.
At Toberfrank wrote, I love the story of this book, but the Instrumecha just didn't vibe with our group. They got changed to be just pure sonic weapons. Even with its flaws, we had a good time playing this. Anything that extended the world was a good thing back then.
At first, one's entertainment, 8,575 wrote. The use of the Epses and their new mecha were the best part of this adventure for me. My players never got into the rock thing. It always felt tacked on. A cyclone or a mecha guitar?
It seems like most people really didn't get into the rock band thing, and I didn't either. But I agree with you, First One's Entertainment. The new mecha is the best part of the adventure. It's a true hidden gem, and I recommend playing it if you could find one.
At D-Diver 7908 wrote, Macross 3rd Generation was my favorite. That's what triggered my passion for motorcycles. And Lunk was underrated. More love for the fat mechanic truck driver support character, please.
I'm right there with you, D-Diver. I'm a long-time writer too. So it's either a Cyclone or the first Top Gun movie that made me want to be a motorcyclist. How cool was it to see Maverick right alongside a Tomcat?
Episode 31 Robotech Palladium Character Creation.
In this video, I went over character creation. The rules could kind of be all over the place, so I wanted to see if I understood the rules.
Michael Sudsy Sutherland 5353 wrote, Robotech RPG helped me figure out the Palladium system and riffs. Strangely enough, I just like the organization a bit more. Given it's a simpler game, it's a great intro to the Palladium system alongside Heroes Unlimited. Don't start at riffs. Start right here, this video.
At Sketchosaurix 4087 wrote, Palladium games never really suited my playstyle. I do wish I kept all those books, though.
Thanks, Michael. That's some really high praise, and I really appreciate it. Sketchosaurus, I'm on that same boat with you. I definitely sold some books that I wish I didn't, but that's why they have eBay.
Episode 34 Robotech Palladium Combat Tutorial.
I had problems understanding Robotech combat, so I put this video together to see how I understood the rules.
At Tecos22 wrote, Just found your channel. I played this game as a kid. Loved the walkthrough. I don't remember all the rolling. We probably improvised. Nonetheless, new sub.
At the Dungeon Minister wrote, I've never played a mech game. Partly the ones involving minis are so expensive. It looks pretty cool though. Is it a combat-only game, or is there an adventure RPG component?
Yes, Dungeon Minister, Robotech is a full RPG, and if you'd like to see another video, I have one on character creation. I don't remember any rules specifically for minis, but back in the day I used to buy Battletech minis, and recently I bought this one from eBay. Looks pretty cool.
Episode 30 Robotech RPG Tactics Unboxing with Battlecry Upgrade.
In this episode, I discussed Robotech Tactics. I didn't support the Kickstarter, but it looked really promising, so I bought a kit on eBay, and I wanted to see what I missed.
At RCGunner7086 wrote, It's a great game. I've played it a number of times and have really enjoyed it. The figures are a real pain to assemble. That is the UEDF minis. The Zentradi were easy enough to assemble, but the gun tubes were a bit brittle.
At Sigulf, Bjornsson wrote, I am embarrassed to say how much time and money I have spent on this game, only to have never played it. It's very niche, and sadly I don't have the proper nerds in my friend group.
At MasterLex34 wrote, Awesome. Like you, I also didn't get it because of building reviews. Been thinking of getting it recently, though. Will you also be getting the Kids Logic Macross Dogfight? Wondering how they compare?
I actually do have several boxes now, but I've only completed a few of the figures. The Zentradis are fun, but the Veritechs are so hard to put together. They're such a pain. I don't have the Kids Logic Dogfight, but I bought the Kids Logic Mac 2 Monster. It seems like it's a smaller scale than the Tactics scale. Some of you all have enough mecha for an actual fight. Maybe I can live stream it. Let me know if it's something you'd like to see. Thanks everyone for watching all the way through, and if you made it this far, how about giving me a like? And if you didn't like what you saw, I still truly appreciate your time, and I hope in the future to make something you will like. Let me know in the comments if there's something else from Robotech you would like to see, and if you have not done so yet, please give me a sub. This helps me bring new Robotech content to our community. And I'll see everybody on the next adventure.